Hi, and welcome to the 92nd edition of the Keen Minds podcast. We're covering NBC's The Blacklist. This is season 7. We're covering episode 8, the...
Hawaladar.
Yeah, I am terrible at pronunciation. Hawaladar, I think. And we're also going to touch briefly on the episode that Tessa and I missed because our schedules didn't line up, which is 707. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saigo.
I'm Tessa. And should we begin by 706 since Hannah Hayes, since that was
707.
707, since we did miss that week. I was away traveling, so couldn't be done.
Yep, it happens.
It does. How did you like the Blacklister?
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I actually haven't even done a rewatch of that episode, so my memory on it is going to be incredibly spotty. I wasn't a huge fan of it or of the Blacklister.
I tend not to like issues that touch on heavily belief, things that go into moral beliefs, because it just seem like they get sticky. They get very sticky.
Definitely.
But I gotta say, I like the actress was amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, she
I'll agree with you on
portrayed,
that.
yeah, and very much on target, especially because we have Katerina saying, that she's done with men controlling her life, and this is to be, Katerina seems a very damaged individual, she seems to fly off the handle, and so, I mean, she gets suddenly super emotional, like, why are you doing this to me, and crying, and then on the next sentence she's like, yeah, I'm fine killing them. It doesn't matter if they turn me into a zombie, I tried. So it was interesting to have a Blacklister that seemed such a heavily damaged person with a good cause. I mean, anybody being raped and then have the rapist want parental rights, that pretty much, and then being set free because, hey, we got overcrowding.
I will say one of my favorite parts of the episode was when she shot him. So.
I like when he had it by the, in that kind of, it was a little reminiscent of the Deer Hunter. She was hanging in there, and the guy was crying in the pig face. And the guy was crying in desperation. I love that moment.
That was nice.
Yeah. And the guy was no, we got. She tells him the news. Hey, we got another one. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I really liked that part of the episode, especially because the guy was obviously a coward. I mean, he's whimpering in desperation. To be fair, he's been there for quite a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, it's... Yeah. Those kind of people are not exactly the...
No. Rapists are not generally outstanding people of outstanding moral value.
I'm not sure any of them are. I can't think of an outlier there.
So, but I found there a lot of things in this episode were very interesting. Well, for one, we had Ilya meet Liz, and she wasn't even aware. And I'm like, you've had that picture in your notebook, and at the same time, this guy who looks just like an older version of it is right there. And hello, you don't even I don't know.
Fans have been saying since he popped up last season, wow, he looks a lot like younger Ilya. That's interesting. I mean, we've made the comment here on the podcast, but we're certainly not the only ones that have said it. And so when it came out that he was, in fact, Ilya, it was like, well, I could see it. It didn't feel like it came out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll reveal something in the Blacklist. You're like, are you sure? Can we check that again? But no, that felt very organic and very much, I mean, while I would have liked to have known who Raymond Reddington was, I didn't feel like I had one pulled, like someone tried to pull the rug out from under me on that.
Yeah, just
partially
for me,
because
it was
of the how much he does resemble the younger actor. It's impressive. We need to give props to the casting department on this show. They really do a fantastic job. And I was actually thinking about this with the little girls that play Agnes, because they're triplets. They look so much like Megan and young Liz. I mean, like, they just did a very good job finding little girls that look like that. So the casting department is just phenomenal in the show.
Yeah. Actually, the babies even look like the baby that play young Liz. Baby Liz. Yeah. So it was brilliant. I mean, I think that they've done a fantastic job. What I found very interesting about that episode was the whole setup with Katerina saying, I'm done with men controlling my life, and you have a blacklister who's angry at men controlling her. So that worked well. It was a nice way of presenting two female characters, deeply damaged and very angry. And we have mentioned how there is a whole thing flowing through the show about women forced to marry, women forced to have children. We have had several episodes dealing with violence against women, like the Deer Hunter, like Campos. We've had this Ana Gracia Duerte. So there is a whole thing flowing through of this, of women's lives control. And I'm getting a distinct impression that this woman was forced to be a honey trap and something of the sort. I can't even form the thought correctly.
Do you mean blonde cat?
Blonde cat, yeah. That there is some aspect here.
We definitely don't have all the pieces, but it's been very interesting, especially, and this is going to wrap into our 708 episode, where just the kinds of things that she was saying to Ilya about what he did to her, and you thought
I was weak,
what they'd been through, all of that. I think it's meant to be in part a red herring to make you lean back towards the Katerina we know, the Lottie Burbank, and all that Katerina went through. And I may just be totally fixated on not wanting this to be the real cat, because I've fixated on it, and she may be, but I still could see. I've still got my running list of things that, yes, this does make me think this is cat. No, this does not.
It's the
yeah, it's a
worksheet. She has a worksheet.
I haven't actually added as much to it as I probably should,
but it's in your mind.
It is in my mind. I do have a running spreadsheet in my mind.
Yep.
It's
yep.
It's a scary, scary place up there. But yeah, it just there's so much in there. I could definitely see, to your point about her potentially being a honey trap. We've talked about her potentially being someone that was related to Katerina. If it was someone they brought in that either had very little field experience or maybe no field experience, she just fit the part and trained her up and pushed her towards this and manipulated her.
In '86 she was hiring Devane for some form of killing. But you know what I got this weird feel about it, and I'm sure that I can probably try to connect where is it coming from. But I keep coming back to Ilya Surkov, that episode where Brian Osterman took an Elias. He supposedly got a burn notice, but in reality what he was doing is assembling. He was doing the bidding of the guy who was the director, the clandestine operations director, and basically what he did was make all the other guys, including Agent Colburn, think that she was working for the CIA, when in reality she was working for Osterman. And it started being a CIA black op within the black op, but at the end they were they were really just running a parallel operation, and they started then using, instead of getting Surkov, they started using the Surkov, the name, to run their false flag operations. So for some reason, I don't know where is it coming from. I would have to really look and see where am I getting this feel that this woman thought that she was working for the KGB, and she thought that Ilya was KGB. I have a feeling that Ilya was not KGB. He was all black op, and this woman got tied in that thing.
I'm not saying you're wrong, because it is the Blacklist and everything is so twisty, but you're always convinced someone's running at least a double, if not a triple imposter moment.
Yes.
But it is the Blacklist, and most people are. So that's why I can't tell you you're wrong.
I've been accused of worse. I've been accused of worse. It's like I have a complicated mind, and I see those things like all the time. Am I right or wrong? I don't know, but I'm getting that feeling.
Yeah. It's, I definitely do believe that she has been twisted around. She feels like she and Ilya obviously have some sort of connection prior to meeting for this. I mean, maybe he honey trapped her. You never know. Like I said,
they seem to have had a romantic relationship. That was some emotion she's been showing towards Ilya.
Yeah. And I felt like for the story that we got, obviously we can't believe all of it. What Dom, told Liz.
Oh, Rasford? Yeah. How about nothing?
But I mean, even if you're just going with the general feelings, the vibe of the story and the characters and the way they connect to each other and such, with Ilya and Katerina, I did not get the impression that this Ilya and this Katerina, that this Ilya, I mean, he obviously is more on Team Red than Team Blonde Cat, and
this cat seemed to be more attached to him, because
she's
the
more
cat
attached to
of
him than he is
Rasford
to
was
her.
like, yeah, right, okay, maybe if you do what I tell you, I give you a kiss. How about that?
Exactly.
To sleep with me, that will cost you a lot more. She was there was not love there.
She was working him in the flashbacks, while it feels like with the way that they're matching up in this past episode in 708, it really felt like, while he may not necessarily have been working her as in he was unattached to her at all, it felt more like it was more business for him than it was for her.
Yeah. It felt like it was that the emotions were real for her. Yeah. And I didn't get that feeling about him at all. Like, he was like, oh yeah, I underestimated her, so maybe they just use her for something. But I didn't get a feeling. In fact, I did get the same feeling that you. I mean, he honey trapped her.
Yeah. And so, but I do have a question. Where on earth was this man's wife when all this happened? I mean, Blonde Cat and Birdie.
Is it the wife? I started thinking. Linda, was that a keeper or a person who takes care?
Well, I don't know, because
he did have a woman with him.
It was Mr. and Mrs. though, because that's what
maybe he goes for alter ego.
I mean,
Mrs. Bloom.
Elodie said Mr. and Mrs. Bloom, and
and then he appeared with a woman, a blonde woman.
And so I don't know. I got
check alter ego.
Well, I mean, but he was showing up to his goddaughter's wedding, so he wouldn't show up with a random woman and call her his wife to his goddaughter. That wouldn't make sense. So I mean, all I could think of was, oh no, we have another Hudson. It's just a wife this time. They forgot the wife.
Or maybe she was in there. I mean, that didn't look like an apartment where a woman lived.
Yeah, it was strange, and maybe they'll mention it, or maybe it was one of those things that ended up on the cutting board.
Maybe that's the apartment where he works.
Maybe. That's a possibility, that he has like a flat somewhere that he uses.
Like a lot of people would have a house in the country, and then they would have a little flat in the city, like Red's Bethesda flat. Not a place where he resides all the time, just a place that he can go when he's working.
Yeah, no, that would make sense.
Yeah, it just didn't have a very
lived in
homey
feel. Yeah.
feeling. No, like it had a feeling very much like Red's apartment.
Like it's staged.
Yeah. Right, like a
With
place maybe that
necessities.
he had used at one point and he went there when he needed to work. I mean, I imagine that whatever it is that he does, finding people, creating fake IDs, whatever it is that he does, I don't think that he will be doing that at home.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, do you want to talk in general about the characters? I mean, Aram didn't have a lot of things
No.
going on.
Can I just say before we get too deep into this?
Yeah.
So, the head of the New York office for the Hawaladar, because Hawaladar was the banking system on whole. Okay.
Yeah. The Hawala is the banking system. The Hawaladar is the guy who was.
Oh, okay. So that was him. I didn't realize that they were bringing, and I'm probably going to totally butcher this poor man's name, Iqbal Themba. I have seen him on so many things. I love this man. He's one of those actors that plays on a bunch of different things, and whenever he pops up, I get really excited. And so I didn't realize he was going to be on Blacklist, so when he popped on my screen, this episode suddenly was notched up, like, already. It was, 10, 15, 20 points ahead of anything else.
He did good. It was a
fantastic.
fun episode.
It really was. I very much enjoyed this episode. It was well paced. It had a lot of great character moments in the episode, and I think it paved the way for other moments that may be to come. It set things up as well.
There wasn't much. It is interesting because there wasn't much on neither one of them for the rest of the cast in the post office.
Wrestler had some on episode 8. But yeah, it's from what I understand, someone made the comment that Megan's been working on a side project, and so that's why she's been.
Well, she was a lot more in this past too.
I think she must be done.
in this last one. But it was a lot about Agent Parks and interaction with Parks, and I just want to say this, and I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because she had moments with Aram, and then she had moments with Wrestler. But I do want to say something, and this have come up in Reddit. There is I was having a discussion there with somebody called by the name Wolf by the Silver Stream, and a lot of people are are annoyed at the fact that Parker seems to be saying things that for the audience are evident, like, oh yeah, well, Red is using us, and meanwhile he's just distracting us with this.
She is new to the task force. I mean,
but the fact that they're doing that, and I gotta say, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. This is now, I can totally say, they're going to begin to hit us in the head. Before they've been laying a trail of crumbs, but they're two fans. They're the super fans. We're the super fans. The fact that you're listening to this podcast definitely puts you in the super fan category, and the people who are doing podcasts are definitely in the super fan category. Anybody going into a social media site to look at these things, we are that.
Yeah, we're not the casual viewers. We're the ones picking the characters apart, the mysteries apart. We're theorizing. We're doing rewatches. Yeah, we're the ones that are, eyeball deep into this.
So the crumbs that they've been laying in clues are for us. Now, once I started seeing that, yes, they brought this woman, and I know what her role is. She's bringing each one of these crumbs and basically taking the face of the audience and putting them right in there and then hammering it. Like, did you get that crumb?
She's for the casual viewer.
Yes.
Instead of going back and doing that horrific episode that they did in season 2, that was a trend for a long time in network television of, here's what you've missed. Let's have an episode of full flashbacks with a little bit mixed in so that you have to watch it.
They're
doing this, which is, well, I will say that I appreciate that more even if I don't necessarily appreciate Park yet.
Yeah. But yes, she does serve that purpose for new viewers, but she also serves the purpose for the casual viewers of taking a flashlight, and by a flashlight I mean one of those giant things
Spotlights
that we have that can illuminate across a paddock of 6 acres away, and putting it on the crumb and saying, there, crumb, did you see the crumb? Do I need to explain the crumb? Let me explain the crumb. And that now that you're seeing this, you're going to start seeing the crumbs that we have been seeing. You're going to see the general audience getting them because they've been hammering them. Red uses the task force to create a problem and then solve it. They use it to get people out of the way. They also distract people. And Park is the one saying, you know what, I think that Red is over his head. And we've been talking about that seasons 1 and 2 was we looking at the magician performing the full thing. You know, with the lights and the sequin dresses and the smoke, and it looked so pretty, and we got the tricks. And then slowly we've been peeling that away and going into the rehearsals. And then we saw a little further in, we saw the magicians trying the tricks, and we saw the magician failing, kind of recovering and stumble like when he lost all his money. So right now we're seeing that Agent Park, like Agent Gale, can get in Red's head. And that's going to be invaluable for the casual viewer to put us in what really is happening, because she correctly asserted that Red was over his head. Red is frantic. And that is Frank or Ilya is in the same category as Liz, Carla, Dembe, and Dom. They're family. And when they're missing, he's frantic.
So, I have some thoughts on Park. I've been talking to some people about her because I want to like her. I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's obviously here. I'd like to like her. I tend to like most of the characters that they, that stick around for any length.
Why don't you?
She feels very much like her entire character is there to do exactly what you just said, to serve a purpose. That she doesn't feel like she has a whole lot of depth. She's there as a tool for the writers to use.
Like Mira.
I felt more depth in Mira than I do with Park. But
at the end, when she was fully invested,
no.
Did you feel any
everybody was you were getting to know everybody when you got to know Mira. Let me see if I can get through this with Park, because I've had a lot of trouble, and I've been thinking and talking with people about it, and I haven't asked her if it's okay to say her name on here, so I'm just going to say I have a friend, and she listens to it, so she'll recognize the conversation we had. Her statement was, and I think she hit the nail on the head. She said she basically is filling roles that are already filled. She has Aram's tech skills, Wrestler's code of conduct, a code of morality that he started out with, and Liz's penchant for darkness, her dark genes, as it were.
And, I was saying the same thing this morning.
I mean, and so you've already got those roles filled. And so it's like there's nothing to her. I mean,
yes, there is.
Even when she came out and was like, Alaska, this and that, all I could think is Liz's dark moments in Alaska. Oh, okay. There just doesn't seem to, and it may just be that I need to give her time, that I'm being impatient. That's always possible. But several episodes in, I feel zero connection to this girl. They could shoot her in the head tomorrow, and the character, not the actress, good heavens. By the way, the actress has been fine. I mean, I don't, it's hard to say. I really don't think she's been given a whole lot to work with. But it just, I mean, they could kill Park off tomorrow and I wouldn't shed a tear. And that's kind of sad for me because I tend to very much enjoy, even if they're not my favorite characters. Like every once in a while I stop and go. Mira. Every time, I'll stop and go, oh, I miss Marvin Gerard, or oh, look, Glenn's back. It's, I mean, they're not. No, those are just fun people. But I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint for me, but I feel like she's filling roles that are already filled, and so that leaves her with the point of being a tool for writing. If you don't want that to be that obvious, that's not good.
Well, I think that you have to first give a little more time because we don't know what is she there for. I had the same feeling about Mira. I didn't really connect with her, and I always felt like, now I get Mira was a tool put there by Diane, but up until the moment where she was set up as a
I'm not talking about a tool used by characters.
No. I got your meaning, but I'm saying the fact that they did that, and I was just talking about the exact same thing in Reddit this morning about the fact that this is a character that shares something which each one of the characters in the show, that to me makes her a tool. And I'm not bothered by that because they may just flesh her out a little bit later. I'm not really looking forward to get involved with another character at this point emotionally. I think that, that after Samar's and Tom's death and Samar leaving and all that, it seemed like I have a lot of other characters that I want to really get to know. I want to get to know Ilya. I want to get to know more about Dom. I want to get know more about this blonde Dom. I even like Birdie.
Yeah. Birdie's fun, and I feel like Blonde Cat is going to regret not listening to him at some point. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has, I don't know what the deal is with him. He's obviously the domestic side of it to a degree. Him cooking was a very odd, but also I think a very telling moment when she walked in. He was cooking her dinner.
I think they're like together. I don't get the
impression that they're. I get the impression it's a platonic relationship, but they're very close.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird, and I definitely have it filed under weird. Like,
they're definitely filed under weird.
Yeah, that's very weird. But that
makes it fun, and that's the thing is little things like that. Like, we don't know anything about Birdie's past, but there are little things that are dropped here and there that make him interesting, that make him fun. Ilya the same way. There are pieces dropped in, and maybe it's the actors, maybe it's the writing, maybe it's who knows, but it's usually a combination thereof.
Yeah.
I don't get that with Park. It's like, oh, thank you for delivering that information. Bye.
Yeah. And maybe that is the way that the characters plan. I don't know. I mean, I'm filing it under you're a tool for writing, and I'm okay with that so far. I find interesting to analyze why is she a tool for writing, because I don't think that is for the new viewers, because the Blacklist have been losing viewership steadily. So it can't be for the new viewers. It has to be in order to hammer those crumbs.
And I completely appreciate that. I have no problem with it because
you just want a little more.
I just need to be able to connect with her.
A character.
Yeah, I need to be able to connect. I need to feel like she's more than a tool. She needs to be real.
Yeah, unless she's going to die in a couple of episodes, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, but even then, you've got to have a real person on there. I know it's fake. I know it's writing, but to be a good, to give a good story, you have to make people believe these are. We cry for Liz Keene. We cry for Raymond Reddington. I sobbed like a baby when Tom Keene died. I mean, it's these characters. There's a reason we're connected to them. A reason that we, mourn the loss of Samara when she left. And the reason we love them, and you can say, oh, we've had more time with it. That's true. We got connected very deeply, very early.
Yeah.
To most of the characters.
And it might be, I don't know really enough about the actor. I haven't really seen her in anything else. So I don't find myself in a position to say, she's not delivering the lines. Because I've learned my lesson when a lot of people were angry with Liz, and I sat down and say, what if Megan is doing exactly as instructed?
Or
what if I read
or Fiona?
or Fiona.
Fiona
Exactly.
is who I thought you were going with.
Yeah, well, it started with Liz, and then I said, you know what? When you follow what she's doing, you get a thing. And then I got, it took me years, but they gave me the thing that says, yes, you read her correctly. What she was doing makes perfect sense.
But we don't have the time
No.
with Park for that, and so like it just, and I haven't seen
It's a minor
the actress in
character,
anything
too.
else either, and so I don't want to say, oh, she's a bad actress. I have no idea. I
No,
mean,
I
I
have
don't
no
think
idea.
she'd be on the show if she were a bad actress, to be honest.
And Fiona is perfect. Jennifer was one of those characters that was all over the place. It seemed like every week you saw it was a different character. And, the temptation is to say, well, the writers are not giving her that, or the actress. But then, the actress. The difference with that is that you know Fiona, and you know that she's a very capable actress. So at that point, you start thinking, wait a minute, maybe I do need to look at this in a different way. What if she's playing and they're writing her in exactly precise way to be? And that's where you come to this thing and say, you know what? The way I look at this, she actually gave Liz a fake DNA test, and she was getting back at her father for abandoning her and her mother. And she blames him for everything that happened bad. And she's using that to also get back at Liz. And then her actions suddenly make perfect sense. So I don't know if what we're seeing with Park will not be explained in the same way. So I'm just holding off my judgment on the character, on the writer, on the actor, until I get a full, a bit more under the belt.
And that's understandable. I just personally, she doesn't feel real to me. She feels like a flattened out tool.
Cartoon character of a FBI, of a trouble FBI agent.
just the most cliche. Honestly, she feels incredibly cliche. And I hope this isn't the case, that they were like, okay, so, Mozan left, we need another woman to fill her place, let's find a woman, and we'll make sure that she catches everybody up. I hope that's not the case, because that would be very sad. The writing team behind this show is way too talented to take that approach.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of very good moments with anybody else, like in the task force in this last two. Well, I found funny that they got at Hannah Hayes from two different things. She from this estrogen pill, and the other ones from finding the pastor. So it was good when you see that they have two different investigative methods, and they come at it and they're like that. But everything about that, the way they're writing, I agree. They're just doing weird things, like my father sent me to a Bible camp because he couldn't deliver faith or morals, so he wanted me to have it. That felt like, you know what? I mean, this is too much. That is not the way that I'm going to feel connected to a character. It just makes me feel like, flat, like cartoonish. I agree with you, but I'm holding off because I've learned my lessons with the Blacklist. Let me see where she's going, where they're taking that character.
And I will say, as I have said many a time on this podcast, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. And by the end of it, I'm going, hey, let's eat my words. She's actually a fantastic character.
Yeah, do you want sauce with those words?
Yeah, I hope that's the case, because I want to like her. I really do.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Agnes? She's doing great.
Those little actors. There's 3 of them, but they're all so good that you can't tell which one's which. And like sometimes I would assume you could, tell them the different acting stuff. This kid is amazing. These kids. Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, I love her. I love her.
Yeah, they're doing very well. They're doing really well.
Yeah, and just I'm glad that they've had her because there was a worry in the fandom. They're like, oh, bringing Agnes home, how long will she stay? Because it's expensive to have kids on set. It is. Yeah. It's difficult. It's expensive. I mean, they had to go out and find triplets that would be able to do this, to be able to give them breaks as they're needed. It's a hard process. You have to really be invested in it. And I think that the fans of this show are invested in Agnes. I mean, as a Tom fan, that's all I've got left of him on the, I mean, obviously Liz, but, that's his kid left behind.
Yeah. By the way, can I mention that Agnes, while she was keeping the secret, the secret about the dead man, she was wearing plaid. For those of you who do not believe my plaid theory, yes, here it is. The kid was wearing plaid, people. As she was keeping a secret from mommy.
Give her a little button-up plaid shirt, like her daddy from season 1.
She was wearing a plaid dress.
But no, I mean, she is phenomenal, and I love that they've kept up with her drawing, because they had that early on where she was, it was just to keep her busy while Liz and Scotty were talking in season 5. And
it's going on with the drawings found in Dom's barn and in the summer palace and in the fire.
And we also saw that Liz was drawing when Katerina called her in Rosfeld.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, and so now we have a whole thing about drawings giving us clues that Liz went to the bathroom, and that was very smart of Liz, because
I don't think she did it on purpose. She got mud on her shoes, and she was she just stumbled across that.
It was brilliant that she believed her kid.
Oh yeah, definitely. That she went
that she went and said, you know what, a kid would not make this up, and went to the park. And of course, Agnes didn't draw her in the bathroom where she saw it; she drew it outside. But that was definitely the way to connect those drawings and connect the mother. It was great, and it made me feel better about Liz and her questionable mothering skills.
Well, I really like the way that they've taught, that she is being portrayed, I think, as a mom right now, because with the way that things have happened, with being away from her for the first month of her life, with being away from her for the 10 months she was in a coma, and then when she went off to Alaska for however long she was gone. I mean, she's been away.
She was like 2 years out.
I mean, yeah, she's lost a lot of time with Agnes. And so the fact that she is so careful and precise is not the right word, intentional with the way that she approaches her. I mean, when, fake cat or blonde cat was, gaslighting her like crazy and trying to turn it around on her, she's like, yes, she's scared, but we talk about that. You see the trained, the clinically trained psychologist there, that she walks her daughter through it, she talks to her, and even when she was talking to her about the drawing, do you want to talk about it? Can we talk about it? It was very nice, very gentle, and I'm sure Megan brings a lot of that. Her own daughter is about that age now, and I'm sure she brings a lot of, her own personal style into that, and is able to filter that into the scene, and it really shows, and it's come across very well.
Yeah, I was very pleased with that. I'm very pleased to see those parallels and those lines being kind of picked up. And I don't know if you remember, but I said they're leaving kind of lies. They're leaving like kind of lines in there. People call them dangling ends. And I think one moment we're going to start picking them up, and you're going to see what they've been doing. You just got to be patient with the show. Things don't pay off immediately. I love the fact that she found that she's very much like Red. She found a way to let her mom know what she had seen without breaking her promise. The kid is doing Red speak.
Well, I mean, her dad was that way. I mean, he could talk his way around anything. We always talked about how much Red and Tom were alike. She comes from a line of people. I mean, whether Red is biologically related to her or not, she comes from that world, from both directions. And so, yeah, I thought it was a brilliant way of doing it,
Maybe not intentional, but she ended up
But it fit. It fit well.
It did. It did. It was great.
Well, I don't think she's old enough at this point to go, I understand that I'm manipulating the situation. She just does it.
She does
it's
it.
Just,
Yeah.
it's
natural. It's innate. Yeah. So I think that it just have proven us something that it seems like Liz did not know about this woman. And then I went back and I look at the situation from Liz's eyes, and it really doesn't make any sense that she would think that this woman is the same woman who took Red, because all that she was told was there is this Russian woman who took Red because she wants to find things out about Katerina Rostova. That's why they went to my grandfather. So she doesn't think this woman is a Katerina Rostova. She thinks it's a woman who wants to find her mother. And from her point of view, she was on the run. Her life was threatened. She faked her death. She came back. Her daughter was kidnapped, and her mother was no there. So for her, it's like she totally gets like her mother doesn't.
The fact
want
that Maddie. So the fact that Maddie is looking for her daughter. Oh nope, can't be Katerina.
Exactly. For her, it's like, what? My mother doesn't even want me. It can't be Katerina, and it can't be this woman looking for Red, because this woman was described as a Russian, and this woman hasn't spoken Russian, doesn't look Russian, doesn't sound Russian. So how would she even get that? Just because, I go paranoid and start suspecting any woman of that she doesn't even know the age of this woman because nobody saw her except she was a Russian. So I don't know. Neither her nor Birdie have any accents, so there's nothing. Not like the guy who, by the way, and as a user in Reddit by the name of Out of Wedlock said, definitely this guy was a nod to the writers of The Lost Ark when this guy appears with a hat and, yeah. So I appreciate those nods. That was a fun one.
They have some really fun nods in the Blacklist.
So,
I will say, because you said that there wasn't a whole lot for the task force, which is mostly true. I will say for episode 8, I want to give a shout out because I love Smart Rest. And so
yay!
When he was being choked from behind, and his, because your air is being cut off, your brain is not going to be functioning very well there. But he, and he is fighting for his life, but he also has the wherewithal to grab to think about, I think that those ID tags could have a chip in them. Let me do this thing. And so I saw him grabbing for it, and at first I thought he was going to try to use it like as a sharp edge, try to, jab at him with it or something.
I thought the same until he said that, do they have a...
Well, no, but he slipped it in his pocket. Like, we saw him slip it in his pocket. I'm going, all right. He's doing something. We don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something.
Yeah.
And, I love Smart Rest. Because he's very intelligent. He'd have to be to have done everything that he's done. And so getting those nice little glimpses, I always cheer them.
I think that once you get more comfortable with the morality of what he's doing with the task force, once he got and understood, as Red said, that the line of good and evil cuts through the heart of all of us, and once he realized that he was as flawed and as likely to do bad things as the next person, I think that once he got that peace of mind, it was much easier for him to go back to being an agent instead of being somebody obsessed with catching Reddington, and somebody just consumed by his moral dilemmas.
Yeah, he's not fighting himself as much anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it frees his mind to do the smart things. He's been the one who's being at every step of the way actually finding and doing the real detective work to finding Katerina. And, I don't want to even know what's going to happen when this guy is Ilya. And Liz realizes that Dom lied to her. And now she cannot even go and yell at him because he's supposedly unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a complicated matter, especially if he passes away or something. It's how do you even feel about that? There's
They're
no good
probably gonna
answer.
keep him in a bed or unconscious or something.
Oh, another
Uh,
bloody coma.
yeah, they're very useful.
I have a gif somewhere. It was after Liz's coma, after Samara's coma, and I don't remember. I feel like there was a third one that was either going to be a coma or we thought it was a coma. I don't remember what was going on.
Well, Red had a concussion.
No, it wasn't a concussion, but it was when the former roomie and I were still roomies, and she goes, "Not another bloody coma." And
Yeah,
I have a gif of it. It's great. I use it every once in a while.
yeah. The how are you feeling towards the evidence mounting that, well, we definitely can take out that little part of Rasvet and give maybe Dom a little Pulitzer Prize in fiction or whatever the prize in fiction is for Rasvet, because obviously Red is not Ilya.
Yeah, I'm ready to believe Ilya is Ilya. That Frank is Ilya. Now, the thing is, I don't know who that makes Red. And I'm okay with that personally right now. Like I said, I'm much more focused in on the whole Katerina thing. She's where my focus is and where my curiosity is. At this point, they've beaten the the who is Raymond Reddington to the ground so badly. I don't care. I'll get the answer eventually. I'm tired of stressing over it.
Oh my God, not me. Not me. I can have multiple things, but also
I can too. That one has so soured in my mind that I'm just.
you see, I never wavered and I never believed the Ilya. So for me, it's been like, yeah, that's a red herring.
I
Yeah,
just
that's another red herring.
I
You
wanted
keep,
the freaking answer.
yeah. Now to me, it's like I feel that they giving me the answers and they giving me the red herrings, and I feel that I identify most of them. So I'm happy with that because it's coming back to what I've always thought it was. But Liz is going to have an epic reaction. Never mind when she has to tell this to the task force.
Yeah, I mean, because this poor task force, it's like whiplash. Is he? Isn't he? Is he? Isn't he?
Yeah, it probably. I think that by now Wrestler is probably. I don't think Wrestler ever bought it.
I'm not sure that Harold did either. Honestly,
yeah. I think that he was playing games with Ren. Just looking to have something to hang over him too for a change. I mean, it must be nice. You can't let that.
I also think that Wrestler saw that medical file, so he probably knows more about Red than Red realizes he does.
I also have a feeling that Wrestler has one thing. Wrestler saw that Minister D tape as well. I don't think that anybody looking at that and seeing that Red has carried that name of somebody, accused of treason, would have really think that Red, who have gone out of his way to protect the United States, in fact, I mean, yes, he sometimes sell a secret of two, but nothing major. I mean, he's gone like preventing other things. Would say, you know what? I think that there's something in here in this thing about this guy being a KGB agent that doesn't sit right. Not to mention, he is a pretty bona fide capitalist. If anybody is very, very good with money, is Red.
Yeah, he doesn't exactly strike me as the communist type.
No, not unless communists come from private jets.
Yeah, no. I mean, some of them
and
at the top.
Suits.
But Ilya was definitely not at the top from what we saw there, if that's where he was at all. Let's see.
I do want to talk about where do you feel you are now in this woman, this blonde cat being Liz's mother?
Like I said, I keep going back and forth. I have one yes and one no on her being, our cat. So for yes, the way that she approached Ilya and that whole thing, and we talked about this briefly earlier in the podcast, you know, there was definitely a history there. There was a deep history there, but there was enough ambiguity in what she was saying that it could very easily have been referring to another story other than what we know. Very easily. And it felt like, and they do this a lot, it's the same thing that Red does when he wants to lead someone down a path. John Bogenkamp is king of it. He's very good at it with his story. And therefore his writers are very good at it in their story. But they set up a scenario and they say, okay, this is who this person is. You know, or at least, you know, you think this is who this person is. And then they will have them not come out and confirm that themselves, but they will say things that, since you've been told, okay, this is Katerina, and she starts saying about how she and Ilya have a history, that, you know, how could he betray her for this, and all of that.
That he was the one who approached her for Belgrade.
Your brain starts filling in the blanks with what you assume is true. And Red does this all the time. That's how he gets Liz to do half of what he gets her to do. Yeah. Is he never very rarely straight out lies to her. He lets her fill in the blanks and come to her own conclusion. And it tends to be the conclusion he wants her at, not necessarily the truth. And I think that's what Bokenkamp and his team are doing with Blonde Cat, is they have presented this scenario, and they are making, without actually having the woman confirm, yes, I am Katerina Rostova, because we've never heard Birdie call her Katerina.
No.
We have never heard her refer to herself as...
We've never heard she might be, but she's never saying I'm Liz's mother or my daughter. She's never calling Liz her daughter.
And that was one of the things that I have in my no category, was when they were talking about Dom. Ilya, neither of them referred to, I mean, obviously Blonde Cat wouldn't, but they never refer to him as Katerina's father, or as this woman's father. They both refer to him as Dominic. If he was trying to use Dom's name to, you know, find a way in and hit on a sympathy there, he would have said your father, if she were really Cat. If he didn't think it would hit sympathy to use her father against her, he wouldn't have used Dom at all. Like, there would be no point. And so, does that make sense?
Yes, it does make perfect sense.
And so, you know, she may know, I mean, obviously she knows Dom. Obviously both of them know Dom. And there's history there. But if Dom were her father, Ilya would have used that against her on that. I mean, because he's in a desperate situation. So much that
he was saying, like, as soon as I find him, I'll finish the job, because he thought he was protecting Masha. And if that were the case, you know, protecting her daughter would have been what she asked everybody to do. Why would, you know, now you take it against it? You know, that it doesn't make any sense to me. But, I mean, I just want to talk a little about this, because it's absolutely fascinating, masterful use of Red speak. Mm-hmm. There is one aspect here when Red is talking to Morozov. It's brilliant. It's just, he's talking about, you found the lead on Katerina, so we think that lead on Katerina is that he found Katerina. But the lead on Katerina is that he's following Skip, who has the address of Koslov. They don't want Katerina. If they want that blonde cat, it's to sell her to someone, just because she has value in herself, not because that's what she's doing. Sell her to the highest bidder. So that is not the Townsend directive. They want her to sell her because she has values and information. That's everybody's underestimating her. But nobody would underestimate Katerina Rostova. Katerina was supposed to be this like legendary spy. Nobody will underestimate her. She was described as being incredibly resourceful. And then she says, this one was with Rostova, so that means that Morozov knows that that is Katerina Rostova, but not the Katerina Rostova he's looking for the Townsend Directive. So this is, I mean, it's masterful. This woman, I mean, by using the same names, I knew that it had to come for something. There was a reason they were doing this, and that is the reason. And then they're talking about what Morozov wanted was the information he sold Katerina, which was the whereabouts of Kozlov. But then the interesting thing is when Red is talking to Katerina, and we have to talk about Patrick Masuda, because that was very interesting about, it connected about that fairy godmother and the whole thing that has been going on with Red, and is that what he's doing with Liz and the whole thing. He says, you want the address I bought. So inadvertently, Katerina Blonde Cat gave Red an information he didn't have. He didn't know what had happened, and she told him. So she's she's very smart, but she's not at Red's level. She would not have given this information. Red didn't know what she was doing.
I think she's also very emotional, which was not... you could say it was somewhat of not to this level. Liz's mom was not this emotional. I mean, because I'm going back to where Bertie told her, he said this is a horrible mistake bringing him here. I mean,
they're in the apartment next door to Liz.
Yeah, I mean,
with the FBI right there.
That is
how on earth did they get him there?
He's just a little drunk. It's fine. It's fine. He's sleeping it off. We're just gonna take him upstairs to the bedroom. I mean, yeah. But they were able to, they impersonate FBI agents. I don't know. Maybe they still had their jackets from that and just hauled him up there. But regardless, she is being portrayed as a much more emotional person than Lottie's cat has ever been portrayed. Lottie's cat, even at her most emotional, has always been incredibly calculating. And this woman, yes, she's calculating, but she's making some really stupid mistakes. Like you said, she's not playing at Red's level.
No.
I mean, but Red has been known to make his own not so fantastic mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody will make a blunder. You're human. But I found it very interesting too when they play that thing about the godmother and the fairy godmother, because that's something that Red had said in Lady Ambrosia. He said, I'm the kid's fairy godmother. And I think one very interesting distinction that they use, and it was an episode that was very okay, I can do this. Had a lot of purpose. Okay, do not have sake before recording. Okay, I can't say that word.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
It has a lot of
personal?
Purpose. No, purpose.
Oh, purposeful.
Purposeful. Yes, thank you. Okay. Thank you. That seems so easy when you say it. And usually with the sake, that would be the case too. But anyway.
Tessa's had a boozy afternoon.
Yeah. They're presenting Patrick Masuda as this kid who obviously somebody was looking for this blonde cat to kill her, and the kid's parents came out and they were killed, and that's how she escaped, and she felt responsible. So this is a person feeling responsible for taking a parent, in this case both parents, from the kid, and being, and looking out for him, smoothing the way, just like Red said in the Harbor Master speech. You smooth the way, you look for their education and their dreams, you clear the path for them. But there is a very clear distinction, and I think it's important to make. This woman, when it came between her life and the little kid life, It was like, I'm sorry, kiddo, I loved you. You're
Yeah.
on your own.
She was really hard about that. Which
She was crying. It was awful. But it was like, I'm sorry, this is my life or yours. And I win. And compare that to Red, that every single time is being about my life for hers. And when Dembe is like, you can't do that, it's like, it's Elizabeth. I can't. I mean, it's like,
I can't
I don't
not
have,
do it.
yeah, the ripe apple falls because it doesn't know what else to do. If
Such a
you're a
good line.
parent, and I don't mean necessarily only a biological parent, but if you're a parent, your life will always will be less important than the child's life.
If
Your
you're a
job
decent
is to
human
care.
being and a parent.
Yeah, but in a decent human being, but in a for a parent, that would be the default setting. My life or my child.
Yeah. Um it's okay. I had something about James. We'll go into that with Red. No, it's fine. Keep going.
Oh, okay. I love that speech he gave about the decrepit old wings and flutter over here, and the fairy god. It was a great red moment. Um, but it's interesting the anxiety that he gets, because one thing that has been made clear is that Ilya is the gateway to where Katerina is.
Yeah. And actually that was what I was wanting to touch on. James is I mean, James is a great actor, and I think sometimes it's easy because he makes it look so easy to play Raymond Reddington.
Mm.
And so I think sometimes it's, or at least for me, I don't want to say you forget that he's just that good, but it's easy to take it
For granted.
For granted, exactly. And that scene with Glenn, because Glenn seemed to realize how important this was to Red. And he goes, oh, this is different. Okay, all right, I'm on it. And then he went right back to his shenanigans, like nothing was different at all. And Red just exploded at him, grabbed his sandwich, threw it again. I mean, these are the kind of moments that, with anybody else, they're looking down the barrel of a gun, but the look in his eyes when he got down on Glenn's level and the way Glenn cowered back, it was just it was
intense.
It was an impressive scene. And when I was watching it on Friday night, I just went, holy crap, James. I mean, I can't even imagine what kind of headspace you'd have to be able to get into to put all of that into that scene. It was insanely impressive. Hats off. Fedora's off.
Yeah. It was a very, very telling moment too. Red was out of control. Mm-hmm. And I think he fell so out of control. But the most interesting part of this episode, of course, is Ilya's suicide attempt.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm a fan of Brett Cullen, and those scenes were very good.
Yeah, I mean, he is literally willing to die to keep this secret. And that's what makes me think, if we're to believe anything at all from Rasfit, that's what makes me think this is not, Blonde Cat is not Lottie Verbank Cat. Because Ilya was willing to die to keep this secret. He's not willing to die to help this woman. He's willing to die to help his Katerina, the woman he loved through childhood and loved into adulthood and would have done anything for.
Yeah. And that tells me that now we have two people who know both Katerina and Red. And I wonder, we have Sam, we have Ilya.
Well, Sam's gone.
Yeah, but Sam, Ilya, I wonder what the relationship between them are. Sam was about 10 years older than they were, and probably Ilya is a little older too, probably maybe on the Sam more or less, a little younger than Sam. But it's interesting because I'm sensing here a family theme, and something keeps telling me these people are either related or they grew up very close.
Yeah. We don't necessarily know that Ilya knew Sam.
No, we don't. We
But we
have
don't
no
know
idea.
that he didn't.
No.
I mean, they obviously ran in the same circles. I'm still convinced Scotty and Howard knew Kat and Red.
I'm thoroughly convinced
I'll
of
go
it.
to my grave believing that.
Well, there is a picture, and if you look at this, and you know how
At the
I
beach.
had that clues, the drawing of the two the two, and they're too small to be an adult and a kid, but they're these two dark hair girls. And among where are all these dark hair people? There is, and here is a clue. It keeps popping up. Red is obsessed with hair. He keeps talking about this people great hair and the other great hair and the highlights. And I used to have a great mane, and it's hair is always all over the place. So there is something about that, and about the fact that that picture that Lena had was a woman with dark hair and dark eyes. So I think that we have to contemplate the fact that whatever Katerina Rostova may have looked in that identity, she did not look like that.
And maybe we don't need to put as much into the eyes as this because it's a child actress. But Agnes had two parents with blue eyes. I mean, both Tom and Liz. Now, Tom's were darker blue, but they both have blue eyes and dark hair. She has the dark hair from them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Scotty has.
Well, yeah, Scotty has dark eyes. That's true.
And it's not common, but it's not impossible. It happens.
Well, I mean, okay. So my dad has blue eyes. My mom has green. There are two very pale eyes. I have brown eyes. Yeah. I have a little green in them, but mine are brown. My maternal grandmother is the only other person in the family brown eyes.
Yeah. It's not common, but it happens. And
so there we go. They're the dark eyes.
So you have maternal, and I keep going back to, I know that you don't believe in the theory, but if you say that Liz looks like someone, would you say she looks like the Katerina of the flaming red head and blue eyes, or she looks like Carla? I know you won't believe it. I think I'm going to put a big order eventually when the end of the Blacklist with a bunch of chocolate fedoras, and I'm going to just distribute them for people to eat. Because I have so many people say, "Y'all eat a hat." So I give you,
I will eat the hat. If you send me a chocolate fedora, I will eat the hat. Send me 10.
There you go.
Make a milk chocolate, please.
Yeah.
Maybe with mint inside, like the ones from that fun little chocolate
with
shop. Yeah,
you want the band in mint.
I do. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That would be the hat for you.
Please make her Katerina. I want a chocolate mint hat.
So
I've got priorities straight here, folks.
So I'm also sensing a lot of going back to this Brit stuff. Now we have Emma that was an MI6, former MI6. We have Skip Sutherland, which is MI6, but apparently likes to play all sides. And we have Miles, what was the name of the guy who was the dossier of last year?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Only thing's coming to mind is Miles McGrath, and that's not it.
No,
but yeah,
but
I know
it was Miles. And so I'm sensing a theme of a lot of Brit stuff coming back. And we have repeatedly actors are British, like Hannah Hayes was a British actress. It's interesting to me. There's a lot happening. I love that last episode. I was
just going to say, that's not abnormal to bring over British actors to play, mostly because the actors in England, from what I understand, are not under the same
rules.
Well, yeah, but they don't have the same guild. Yeah, the guild rules as the acting guild here. And so they can basically pay them less to come over and pretend to be Americans.
But
That is
they
the
weren't
story I
even
heard.
pretending.
I don't know if that's currently still the case, but at one time I believe that was the
But
way
they
it
were
was.
not even pretending. They were making them to be Brits. They were
Yeah, oh
making
no.
them.
And sometimes they do, but I'm just saying you see some shows where it's like, how many actors are there that are British actors that are pretending to be Americans? And from what I understand, that's why. Is there's just a different
Pay rate.
set, yeah.
I think it's possible, but I've sensed a lot of things. I mean, since we had Dom using nappies and Chum and Oh Boy, it just seems to me that there is a lot of things happening now, and I'm very excited. This episode was great, and I love the fact that they got into another extraction, and then like Red is again teaching Liz, like saying, why would you go there, another undercover agent. So we're bringing back
Walking
those,
her
and
to the answer. Yeah, it was a very nice callback to season 1 when he did that more, and I realized how much I missed it. I mean, at some point I guess he just stopped doing it because she doesn't like to be taught a whole lot. She kind of just
well,
barrels ahead.
she's learned a lot, but
No, she
this
has.
it was very interesting because this is again we're going back to an undercover agent, and I think as we start to go back into who Red is, because now we have eliminated, he's definitely not Ilya. And I know that some people out there believe that he's Katerina. I think that that's going to be the next thing to go. And then we're going to be left with maybe he's Popeye the Sailor Man.
Give him a can
and
of spinach.
yeah, eating spinach and yeah. And so I I find fascinating when we start to bring all these things together. We're picking up the dangling ends, what little bit at a time. And now we have an undercover agent. So are we all talking about all undercover agents? I mean, we're bringing Tom. We're bringing all these things that have been there and not bother anymore and not talked to anymore. And suddenly here it is. It's an undercover agent pretending to be a criminal who is the star witness of a case. So I think that is fascinating to me.
Yeah, they're starting to tie up loose ends, which is, I'm glad, because I don't want loose ends at the end of this. Do you have anything else? I had one other thing. I'm trying to decide if I even want to broach it at this point, because we kind of have moved on from that.
Let's go.
So back to Glenn, and that whole situation. Couple of things with that. One, do you think Glenn is really okay with what happened? He brushed it off when Red came back and apologized. Do you think he's really cool with it?
I am not 100% certain. But I also think that Glenn is not the guy who will double cross Red.
I mostly agree with that.
He was offensive towards Glenn.
Oh, I don't think it was just offensive. I think Glenn was terrified for a moment. And so that leads into the other thing that I started thinking about this on my rewatch. Because everybody that works for Red, that's in his inner circle, we affectionately call them Red's Army. Mm-hmm. They all knew each other. Most of them have known each other, have come across each other at various intervals. Kate Kaplan would have come into contact with all of them at some point, just because of the nature of what she did for Red. And so I do wonder sometimes if people like Glenn, some of the others that aren't necessarily family, they're not Dembe, they're not Liz, people that aren't family, if they ever wonder, he was able to do that to Kaplan, what's going to happen the day that I do something that he's not okay with? Because right here, in this moment, let's walk this moment out. And I'm not bashing on Red to say this. I'm kind of coming at this from Glenn's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
He's watching this. If Ilya had died, And Red felt like Glenn was to blame because he was off thinking about casino night instead of looking for a way to get Ilya back. Even if Glenn didn't feel like he was at fault, like he felt like he did everything, but Red sees it as his fault. Wouldn't that question cross his mind? What if he kills me too now?
I think that for Glenn working in the way he does with the people that he does, I think that would be something that is in his mind constantly.
It's possible. But I feel like because of
Glenn it just got real for him.
Yeah, Glenn gets away with so much. And Red got very honest with him there.
Well, he pleaded, like he said, there was a moment in that episode where he said, please, I beg you. So I think that, my feel was that the actor was not okay with what happened, that the character was not okay with what happened. But at the same time, I think that when he said this is different and there is no time for that, I think that there was a moment of fear, but I think it was a moment in which Glenn, which is a very unusual character in the sense that the reason he gets away with stuff with Red, it's not so much that he's good at what he does. It is, I think, because he understands Red at a level that Red does not understand he understands.
Maybe so.
I feel that there is more of Glenn in Red that Red understands. I think that Glenn would be, he has proven to be a friend. He has proven to be reliable. And Red lost it. And it reminded me the way that Red lost it when Liz loses it. I mean, Red throwing that sandwich at the window reminded me so much of Liz. Remember in that episode when she's at the storage and she's starting to make the glue wall, and Red brings the sandwiches in a bag, and she just takes the bag and throws it out.
Yeah.
And says, this is my life, and you have to do that, and why is Tom? It reminded me of that, and it's an interesting choice for Red to make, because you're at the same time that you're approaching, well, he is not Ilya, and it's very likely that he is Raymond Reddington. I mean, that possibility has opened up and he's there. So now they're showing us Red doing things that Liz does. Red losing his temper when he's emotionally compromised and doing exactly the same kind of things that he has talked about.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not even really necessarily bashing on Red for doing it, because I don't think he would hurt Glenn. I really don't. But I'm curious how much people, because obviously Dim Bay thought it was a possibility when he'd been set up. I mean, it was directly after Kate, and he ran. Because he knew he had to have proof before he faced Red again. Yeah. And so I do wonder, people like Glenn, if they fear him, because it was, as much as James was impressive, Clark was off the charts as well. The way he just cowered down and back, we never ever see him do that.
It was a cowarding that was very interesting, because there is other characters that you can see the fear and the terror in their eyes. I mean, you remember the banker with his beef stroganoff and stop yammering because I'm going to have to shoot through the door. I mean, there was abject terror. Glenn, and that's why I say that there is more of Red in Glenn than Red understands. Glenn was cowering back, but there was something in the eyes that was saying, I know what is going on. There was an understanding. I mean, look at that scene again, because it's remarkable the way that, and then you see him that he's all night and he's working all night. And I don't think that he did it out of fear. I think he did it because he realized it was important.
Well, I found it very interesting, and maybe it was cut, because it seemed almost out of order. I don't know. But at the beginning, when Red first approaches him on it, Glenn makes the comment, he goes, oh, this is different. Like, he acknowledges it, verbalizes it. And then he goes right back to like, even the eating. I mean, that is an accurate statement. Some people do not function without, like, they're useless. Like, let them have their sandwich. You're going to get more out of them.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that he went back into the casino again is what set Red off. I don't think it was necessarily the food as much as it was the frivolous bit with the casino and the sherbet and et cetera, et cetera. And that was kind of odd for me. I mean, obviously it needed to be there to set Red off, to push him over that edge. But it was kind of odd for me because Glenn had already acknowledged that
just not how different. The sandwich, when he cowered, it was when he got it, and I think for me that explained when he's like, yeah, don't worry, Chief, I gotta do the casino some other time, we're good. That was important for Red. That, and I gotta say, I mean, I know that he keeps calling Ilya his friend, but I got this feeling that if they're really friends, this is a very old friendship. I keep getting cousins,
they were children.
Brothers. Yeah, I keep getting brothers for some reason, or cousins, or growing together. Yeah. There is something there.
And then you have those childhood friends that they are basically siblings.
Yeah, they're basically your siblings. I have several, and they're, years may pass, and they're still like we just.
Yeah, but I mean, you were over. You saw their parents almost as much as you've seen your own. In a lot of cases.
And in case of Red, if his father was not exactly the parent of the year, he may have relied on all his kids' parents. So we don't know what the situation and what Ilya is to him, but definitely is important. But the fact that Ilya would prefer to die, and one thing that was interesting was he said, this is about more things that you understand. And somebody was having, and I wish I could remember the username, but somebody said a very interesting thing that and it's being kind of floating around, and it's interesting how as we go along, this things start to pop up at the same time, which is fascinating to me. You know that speech that Red gave her with a map, right? You're the daughter of the secret keeper who disappeared.
Oh, okay. Back in season 2?
In season 3. That was in 311, which was a pivotal episode. There is a way that was phrased that I always thought that the secret keeper, the one that took the secrets with her, is Katerina. But then somebody started saying, what if the secret keeper is Liz? And at first I said no. And then I said, wait a minute. There is something very strange and very deliberate that the writers have done with Liz. She doesn't remember the faces. She didn't remember Kate or Jennifer or Red or Tom or anybody that she had met as a child. But what she remembers are words. She remembers you're wise, you're safe, you're loved. And she remembered 20 steps to the beach. Jennifer said, you remember. She didn't remember Jennifer, but she remembered being told 20 steps to the beach.
She's an auditory. Then I thought, auditory learner.
I wonder if Liz is the one who has the secrets in a nursery rhyme, in a song, something that she doesn't know she knows.
Yeah.
But if she heard the words or the beginning of the words, they will come right back.
I like that. I really like that.
It's very interesting, and that would make Liz the chosen one without anything being about her. Like, it's not about revenge. It's about the fact that she can remember things.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Katerina put some of the words in her and some of the words somewhere else so that they would not be all in the same place. Mm-hmm. And the fulcrum was a sort of way to get us into, what this girl knows.
The pieces.
Yeah, and Red kept telling her, they won't let you go. It's just, I don't know anything. And they say they don't know that. Because Red doesn't realize that she remembers words, even if she doesn't remember the faces. Mm-hmm. So that's something, the last thing I wanted to throw out there.
Okay, so I've got one more thing, and I told you before we started the podcast, I have this, crazy theory
Oh, yay. I want to hear.
And
I love crazy
so I
theories.
don't think it's actually probable. It's
Yeah.
one of those like, oh, this would be interesting kind of moments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it came from that last scene with Lon Cat and Ilya and her creepy buddy about to, jump into the
Mm-hmm.
memories. We're going back to memories, memory extraction, memory manipulation, all of that. And I had this wild thought of what if somewhere back in the day when all of this was going on, they took a woman and brainwashed her into thinking she was Katerina Rostova, manipulated her memories, and basically brainwashed her into thinking she was Katerina Rostova. And so they took everything from her and made her into the woman that they needed her to be. So that
Interesting.
like I said, I don't think that's where it's going, but it was just kind of one of those, oh, that's an interesting plot bunny running there.
But it is a you can take that and not make it so science fiction, and go into what I was saying. This woman may have been recruited
Yeah.
to believe that she was working for the KGB, that her job was to be another Katerina Rostova. Her name may be Katerina Rostova. And they just took her, and she was the gullible one, and they just used her. I mean, there was zero love, zero affection in Ilya or Red. I mean, I think there was more affection in Red than it was on Ilya. And yet she would have. I had the feeling when she told Liz that is not that kind of friend. When they
Yeah.
said, "I hope he's single," he says, "Well, it's not that kind of friend, not anymore." That's exactly what it was. That he basically seduced her into helping.
I kind of got the impression with Ilya that it wasn't that he didn't care at all. It was more of a, she was a means to the end, and like he feels bad about using her because he's a fairly decent human being, but not so bad that he wouldn't have done it.
Mm. Or care more about the other Katerina.
Oh, definitely think he cares more about the Katerina that we know.
And I have this weird feeling that Katerina actually was both with Red and Ilya.
I could see it.
Could you see him being Jennifer's father?
Be interesting. I don't want him to go. I'm really worried that we're about to lose him. I like Ilya.
Yeah,
I
I
like
mean, we
Frank
gotta keep
Ilya.
someone in the past. Everybody just keep dying. But think about all the people that disappear at that time.
It's gonna be a wild ride the rest of the season. Do you have
And
anything
definitely
else?
don't. No, I'm pretty good. I mean, it was wild. I think that the two episodes that we're going to get in December are going to be a wild ride.
Yeah,
I
we
don't want
are.
to talk too much about it in case that we have spoilers, people. But it's I mean, I was very excited. This one was awesome.
Yeah,
The last one, the
it was very well
Hawaladar.
done. Very well done.
Yeah.
I was a fan.
I mean, I loved having like all these things coming together, and the scene in the park was awesome. I loved it.
And they are off next week, and so the Friday after Thanksgiving. For those that celebrate Thanksgiving, wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Be safe. Have a
Eat
good
a
time.
lot,
Yes, eat too much.
don't spend.
Oh no. Black Friday is such a
Enjoy your family.
yeah. Just hang out, enjoy the simpler things. It's
Yeah,
always
nobody
better.
nobody dies thinking, "Oh my God, I wish I had bought this."
Oh, you know what? I will not go to the malls or anything of the sort on Black Friday. I don't know.
Unless I feel that I have a lot of things to make up for, that I need punishment, like
I
severe
know. I
punishment.
mean, like, I've heard about people throwing punches, and I'm like, oh, for what? Clothes? Really?
The TVs, and I mean, it's like, no, you wouldn't get me to a mall on Friday if not even close. I try not to drive.
I don't go to the mall often at all. I do most of my I am that millennial that I'm killing the stores, I guess, because I have such trouble dealing with people and how rude they get, and
Hmm.
just, I do it for my
Yeah.
computer. All right. Well, if you have questions for us or just want to chatter, because we'd love to hear from you, we're on Twitter, on Tumblr, and on Facebook. And you can listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.